Alright, it's me, the Wild Vortex. I just felt like doing my usual video. Like with all these videos, it's just a diary, really, more than anything else, with some philosophy thrown in for good measure. So I wanted to talk about choosing your rock in life. I mean this in the sense of the myth of Sisyphus, which is there is something you'll choose to do in life, which will be like Sisyphus rolling his rock up a hill only for it to return down again forever, for eternity actually in his case, but in our albeit mortal existences isn't a word existence. Most of the time this is thought to mean work or vocation in that's often the way it's interpreted anyway, but I guess it could be interpreted as any something that you are very passionate about, for example, but which is basically a series of failing again and again and again and again, and maybe even never really succeeding completely, never actually achieving perfection. So if I was to self-analyse myself, I work with computers, I work with paint, creativity in general, language actually a lot. I just realised that basically that can all be summed up in one word: language. Language is my rock. And interestingly enough, actually, when I've had a few psychedelic experiences in my life, and certainly the first time I had a psychedelic experience, disclaimer, I'm not like saying do it, I'm just saying this is my subjective experience. One of the main messages I got, if any, from that experience was the power of language and about language itself. And I'm a writer as well, obviously, so it definitely was, the mushroom definitely did hit a deep spot in my mind, right? Yeah? Because language is basically, I think in a lot of ways the world is formed of language. Now, I'm not meaning this in just the sense of the spoken word, so I'm relaying this information in the spoken word, but there's written language, there's technological language, there's code. My main area of work in for my career is code, which is basically just the process of using language to achieve an aim, whatever. It's like you get an input, which is the language part, and then you get an output, which is whatever process you want that program to achieve, basically. So it makes sense, obviously, that we draw into code. But I think it's an important thing to choose. It's not something that you will always be aware of, maybe until even your 20s, early 20s, I'd say. I think it's always been a bit complicated for me as well, because I had this conflict in my 20s between art and technology. I even wrote the artist engineer essay as part of that process of trying to figure out that dichotomy that I had within myself between creativity and technical applied knowledge, like engineering, computer code, all that sort of thing. The thing is, it doesn't have to really be about, and you can just do all these things. It doesn't have to, and basically as well, I think a lot of people, when you're in a society, want you to define yourself very quickly. This is something I really struggled with in my late teens and 20s, definitely. Because like I said, I had this conflict between creative expression, which is not really rational, it's more about, it's not just the feelings and emotions, there is a system of thinking that goes into each piece of work you do, but it's definitely more expressive. It doesn't even matter if you're just doing still lifes, you're still going to bring your emotional state, you're going to bring feeling to it, because what would be the point of art if it didn't make you feel something? That's the whole point. It could be shock, it could be beauty, it could be like awe. Ultimately, if you're any artist is making a piece of work, they want to make you feel something. Whether it just be, we'll look at the amazing technicality of that piece, or if it's like uncovering some sort of horror that exists in reality, or seeing something from the world in a new way. So, well, this is just a general my life experience vlog, really. I'll probably end it in a bit, but those are my thoughts on choosing your rock. Make sure it's a good one. I mean, I go through phases anyway with all this stuff, like, just like pursuing my passions in my work. I can have a tendency of tuning out and tuning into different stuff. By stuff, I mean tuning out on my conventional work, getting interested in something new. I'm always curious about everything in life, to be honest, from religion to history, philosophy, sexuality, culture, technology, and how all these things correlate. That's important because it's still major, huge narratives or whatever, meta-narratives or whatever you want to call it, really. What was I thinking? I was thinking about something earlier, actually. I'm just try and get it together. I was thinking basically along these lines that I can't remember. I'm being absent-minded. Philosophy's always played an important part, but the main purpose of philosophy, I think, is just basically asking a bunch of why questions. One of the most important ideas in philosophy, if not the most important thing, is to never stop asking why. Keep digging. Truth, that was what I was going to say, actually. I've got a fascination with truth, definitely, as well. So, I'm very, even if truth is a hard thing to deal with at times, there's different forms of truth as well, obviously, but I'm talking about, if you've got like scientific bent or you're inquisitive-minded, the key thing that you actually serve is truth. Doesn't matter if it's inconvenient, doesn't matter if it's going to even offend people. I mean, where would we have gotten if people didn't question religion? Religion would still have its grip on the human imagination. I mean, I'm talking about organised religion here. We wouldn't have progressed anywhere near as far as we progress now. And I'm not saying like hate religious people, but if people hadn't questioned that, we wouldn't have any enlightenment, really. We wouldn't have any, we wouldn't have had a renaissance, maybe, even when people started questioning that, very rigid, organised religion. I'm starting to get my thoughts together, actually. So basically, the only drawback with having that obsession with truth is that you see, when you look through history, how far untruths have got, and how far obvious lies, these sort of superstructural lies, have become really deep-rooted in people's consciousness. I mean, the mind is, as well as humanity's greatest tool for bringing about a better world, it's also humanity's greatest tool to delude itself, to bring about ancient religion and superstition, and the human mind is malleable. It can be programmed in some way, not like as I program a computer, obviously it's different, but human beings can be manipulated and programmed in some ways, and that usually occurs in the religious sense with basic indoctrination and brainwashing, pretty much, which, I'm not saying that every form of religion does that, but on some level it's all brainwashing, because it's basically, here's the answer to how the world came to be, instead of saying why, which is the actual truth of it. Like, we don't fully know why this is all here, we don't know. We have models, basically that's what scientists do, they model what is known, and we can deduce from that basically what we think is true. But we don't claim absolute authority. And I'm sceptical of anybody who claims absolute authority on anything religious. I am a skeptic, really. That's my core. The only drawback with all that, though, is the more you unveil of truth, and by this I mean really established truth and the more you realise that it is a fluctuating. It's a fluctuating concept in language, but there are moments in time, as it were, when truth is concrete, as concrete as it can be. People can, but there's only one. Actually, to be honest, there is only one truth. Forget any region of time, space. There is one truth. Truth, in its purest linguistic form, is singular. It isn't dual. The problem with truth, though, is that if truth splits, that's when it gets confusing. That's when human history gets complicated, to say the least. You know, это правда. Anyway, I'll leave this video at that. Leave comments below if you have any. This is just, like I said, I've vlogged on philosophy and life itself, I guess. Okay, in a bit, like, I try and do more videos again. So like and subscribe if you like it.